senators to PDP and NNPP as Senate President confirms Utazi from Enugu as the new minority whip and Aduda as minority leader. I'll be hanging out with Tunde Abaton and Sam Ibemere. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for staying with us. Most times, the more things or situations change, the more they return. They remain the same, despite efforts by successive governments. The monster of fuel scarcity has refused to be tamed in Nigeria. Long queues at filling stations and hike in pump price of petrol and transport fares are hallmarks of agony that residents of Lagos and Abuja are contending with. As the scarcity persists, petroleum marketers increase the pump price from 165 naira to 180 naira per litre and more. In a statement, the Secretary of Lagos State Depot of Independent Petroleum Marketers Association of Nigeria, that's Ipman Akim Balogun, said there's no way they can sell petrol less than 180 naira per litre with the current situation. Let's give you some updates on this situation.
The crowd, the confusion and frustration it brings, and now normal sight at petrol stations within the city of Lagos. This is in contrast to the situation at some other stations. Though the product is not being sold here, black marketers have taken over the business. On seeing the camera, we could not speak with them, but we learned the price is more than 70% higher than the regulated price of 165 naira per litre. 3 days into the scarcity in Lagos, economic activities are already reflecting the harsh reality, as many commuters are stuck with no transportation in sight.
When I was coming to from my house, I live in Ayege. This one I spent 400 naira instead of 200 naira. The issuer money from Ayege to Ikeja is 200. From Ikeja to Ojota, it's 200. How long are we going to continue with this? So government has to do something very fast.
This country, we are tired about this country. I go so many fuel stations, all of them in the same queue I'm facing. So I've been the one on Ikeja, the same thing. So what we are seeing now is like no fuel, or let they open up, tell us there is no fuel, then we'll know there is no fuel, we'll go and park our car.
For years now, scarcity of petroleum products have become a mainstay in the life of the nation. There is widespread belief that the frequent scarcity is a ploy to further increase the price of the product.
One thing that we do badly in this country is we do not know how to disseminate information to people. You know, at least once you communicate to the people out there, they will prepare their mind and they will have maybe alternatives. But here we are, everybody woke up on Friday and the next thing we saw, queues all over the place.
I've already used almost 1.5 hours here now without seeing anything to buy. I want to buy fuel for my car. There is no drop of fuel in my car now.
The sad reality now is no one knows when this crisis will abate or when life as we know it will come back. The frustration is palpable and many believe hope is lost for the country. Theophilus Ilama, TVC News, Lagos.
Sam, like an hour ago, I filled my tank at the Bovas filling station, Ojodu, but I can't use that as a yardstick for everywhere in Nigeria. So for some weeks, we saw the scarcity subsiding in Lagos metropolis, but Abuja was still problematic since that contaminated fuel came into circulation. Right. So right now, we are seeing it might be easing out in Lagos, part of Lagos, but it will be dangerous to use that as a yardstick.
Absolutely, Ario, you're correct, because Lagos is in focus because it remains the country's commercial nerve center, same as Abuja. But I tell you that if you venture beyond Lagos and Abuja to some sections of the country, especially the southeast, we still have these challenges, and also in the north. And that's because we have disruptions in the supply system. Okay, what we have been told at the moment is that NNPC says it has enough stock, but the independent marketers say the cost of doing business, has gone astronomically high that, they can't continue to play charity, as it were, because they have, costs, to recover, things like cost of operations, diesel, moving the diesel and moving the petroleum products and all that stuff. So that's what we're, the challenge that we face at the moment. And we hear that the government is making promises, through its agencies to deal with the issue of subsidy in terms of bridging the costs, of moving these products from the depots to, critical sections of the country, especially the north. The last time, I followed the news, we're told that the government is offering, I think, 10 naira per litre or something like that to 20 naira. So I think that issue is being resolved, and the ease, the easing out of the queue in Lagos might just be a reflection of the fact that some consensus or some agreements, are being reached. And that's because the independent marketers and the other major marketers are probably receiving products, and that's why we are finding some, ease in the system. But I tell you, we can't continue to pretend that all is well. We have global disruptions as well, and these things are beginning to impact, on the local economy. The solution to this would be just to ensure that we increase our capacity to refine these products locally, so that the cost of importation will be reduced, and then the cost of also doing business will be within the tolerable range, so that those who are supplying these products to the market are not made to play Father Christmas, because they have to run their businesses sustainably.
Internationally, it has not been something that is easy. In the US right now, they're facing the same crisis. In the UK, they're facing the same crisis, inflation and increase in the price of petroleum products.
Well,
what's the international market?
Well, I think, as much as we are members of the international community, we are also playing within the international community economic system. There's something that we have to know. In such other organized countries, organized developed nations, they have many other options of transportation. They have tram, they have underground railway system, they have a lot of systems that people can use. You can stay in UK for probably 10 years without knowing how to drive a car. So, but here, 90% of our public transportation is still basically on road transportation. Right. For instance, you mentioned about Lagos, the crisis always there, because 70% of the fuel that is used every day in Nigeria, they use it in Lagos for obvious economic reasons. So I think the problem is that our leaders have to be more visionary in our planning system, because the cost of doing business, the hyperinflation we have in Nigeria, may be enough reasons for the independent marketers to say that, look, we cannot continue to increase our running cost while we are selling at the old price. Right. The moment the running cost is on the higher side, they will reduce their profit and their capability of remaining in the business. So it is natural that when you take in a stock of about 10,000 liters at 160,000 naira, and your own margin is 5 naira, by the time you exhaust that cost, they ask you to come and pay 170 naira. You may not have enough money to stock again. So one is not making excuse for them, but we have to know that the hyperinflation we have in Nigeria today is an excuse for all other organs to begin to fix price as they want. So I think basically we should stop all this idea of one day, one problem. The basic solution to our problem is that we have a government that promised to build 4 refineries in 2015. Between 2015 and now, they have not been able to even maintain the 4 ones that they have. I think until we have our own refinery, basically, we are supposed to be enjoying from the face-off between Iran and between Russia and Ukraine. But the reverse is the case, because the more other players pay more money for our crude, the more our people here will also have to pay for refined petroleum products that is imported. And what is the value of the naira to the dollar today? We import most of those things. There's a limit to which government can also subsidize, except, of course, they are not going to make their gain. Remember that we are also borrowing money to pay salary. We are borrowing money to finance our budget. So all these things taken together, I think the best thing for government is to have a definite plan of refining. Until we do that, in the next 5 years, we'll continue to have this experience. I'm telling you, I don't know when Dangote Refinery will come on stream. Earlier, it was supposed to be June this year. But if it doesn't come on stream the next 6 months, 1 year, which means this thing will continue. So the best thing is, I don't know.
Sam,
the onus is on government
now,
to do something.
Looking at it, I don't know how long the federal government will sustain this subsidy, the payment of subsidy. It's like postponing the evil day. And if you look at what we are really putting into this subsidy thing, and you look at the infrastructural deficit we have, and it's like a catch-22 situation. If this subsidy is removed, some people are saying that we'll start buying for 280 something or 300 naira per liter. What is happening in the international market right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting development really, because we're basically playing the ostrich, burying our heads in the sand and exposing our behind. Interestingly, we have a president who suddenly has become a born again. You recall that not too long, he told us that subsidy was a scam. And today he's the main driver,
you have
main
seen
campaigner.
the reality.
Do you understand?
No, when he was outside,
yeah,
it felt so.
But that tells you that there is some gap in understanding of the economic realities that we face. All right? I mean, switching over from it's a scam to being the one trying to convince Nigerians that, after all, other countries, subsidizing the supply of petrol to the economies and all that, just tells you that we need to be a bit more, show depth in our understanding of our economic realities. The fundamentals don't really look good, and that's the truth. You don't have the capacity to refine these products, and so we import. That's the reality that we face. And when you import, you are confronted with international prices. And then government says, we are going to do that, but we are going to pay the difference so that our people don't suffer. But for how long? We can pretend that we can carry it. The last time I checked, we were told we had spent over 4 trillion naira. That is money that could have gone into some other infrastructure development. So, but for how long? Because even when we try to compare the Nigerian economy with the rest of Europe and the Americas, you just find that these are two different situations. So I think that there's a problem when we begin to argue that because it's been done elsewhere, then we should also make subsidy in 100% policy. So I think that we need to confront our reality.
I have my first caller. Uche is calling us from Inewi in Anambra State. Thank you for joining us, Uche. Thank you for joining us, Uche. Uche, are you there?
Yes.
What's the situation like in Inewi?
Yeah, good evening, good evening, the panelists.
Good evening.
Yeah, and good evening, this is Uche calling from Inewi.
Okay. I asked you about the fuel situation in Inewi.
My point is very clear here. You can't be talking of removing subsidy.
Hello? Oh, we lost Uche there. Now, talking in terms of if a new government gets there and the new president decides to remove burden of subsidy, subsidizing fuel, and Nigerians, do you see us, do we have that purchasing power, or can we sustain buying it at competitive
Well, I think
price?
there's something that we have to get right. It says that we keep on talking about subsidy. They have always been removing it. By the time Abacha left in 1990, it was 22 naira per liter. Today, it is 160. So they have been removing it, but they will continue removing it. We will continue talking about subsidy in as much as we have no capacity to refine locally. Because what is the essence? When you buy fuel at the international market, you sell your crude at the international market. Today, it is about 105 naira per barrel of crude oil. And those people that are selling refined products for you
are making more
money on crude. So definitely, you are also importing from there. You are spending your limited foreign exchange, because we have a limited foreign exchange to import the fuel. So the issue of subsidy will continue to be there for as long as Nigeria cannot refine its product. We have to accept that one. So it's not a question of the government. If a government remove it tomorrow, if the price of oil in the international market should increase to $150, we still continue talking about subsidy. So the antidote is to have the capacity to refine locally, have 4 refineries working at optimum capacity to supply, at least we need an average of 200,000 barrels per day to service our local economy. Nigeria, their refinery is about 150,000, 200,000 barrels per day, and they only need about 50,000 barrels per day to service their economy, which means the remaining 150,000 is for Nigeria. So what I'm saying is that until we have the local capacity to refine what is needed to service our local economy, subsidy will continue to be there.
I also think that there is a trust gap.
Okay, let me take Taiwo from the United Kingdom. Thank you, Taiwo. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Taiwo, yes, I can hear you. Thank you for joining us.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank
Go
you.
ahead, please.
Well done for the good job you're doing. Subsidy or no subsidy, where are the refineries that APC promised that they're going to give us 1 refinery every year? I have the manifesto here with me. They promise 1 refinery every year. And my next question is, who is the Minister of Petroleum? It is Major General Buhari. We are begging you, please, Major General Buhari. You know, you promised to make life easier for Nigerians. Why are we suffering? Why are Nigerians suffering this much? You're in charge of the petroleum sector. And you can see how people, people go to work. They're supposed to go straight home to relax. They're queuing up.
Thank you for your contribution to Taiwo. Taiwo is asking APC that she has a copy of the manifesto of APC, saying that they will build 1 refinery per year. I can't verify that. I can't verify that.
No, it was a campaign promise. It was a campaign promise.
Written in black and white.
No, but
I didn't see
a
it.
promise is a promise.
Yeah, but that
promising you 1 refinery per year.
For the first 4 years, because that was 2015.
That brings but that brings a question home. I was going to talk about the issue of trust, the gap and all that, and the manifesto thing came up. So what is the manifesto? Basically a promise, a body of promises that we're going to do this when we're going to get into power and all that. Ayo, what I think is missing here is that the citizens appear to have lost faith in the integrity of those governing us. All right? So every government all over the world would always initiate policies. Some of these policies are going to be very painful to execute. All right? But the difference between what you get elsewhere and here is that we don't trust that our government is genuine enough with the kind of policies that they have initiated. They are not sincere enough. That is the general perception. And so when government comes out and says, we want you to do this, the populace will simply react and say, no, we are not going to accept it because the promises I've made in the past, you have not delivered on them.
Okay.
That's what I think is missing here.
We have Ade from London again.
Good afternoon, everybody. Can you hear me?
Good afternoon, Ade.
Yes. What I want to say is this. Nigeria government, the federal government, they don't care about the common people. That is the problem we are having in Nigeria. I don't support the subsidy. They should remove the subsidy. Use the money to care for common people. In UK, once you are 60 years old and above, you are entitled to freedom pass. You can travel all the train, all the underground, buses, everything free. That's what I've been using for many, many years. But in Nigeria, they don't have any option. You don't need to drive car here unless you are a young family, you just raising a baby or whatever. There are people like, we don't need it. You use the bus, you use the train, it's free. So there's no congestion on the road. Nigeria federal government should care for the common people. Remove the subsidy, cancel it, remove it, and use the money for welfare, social welfare for common people, poor people.
Thank you, Ade. Ade from UK, thank you. But look, spend more on infrastructure, drop the subsidy according to Ade, and concentrate on the masses.
Well,
program that will affect them.
But let me ask you a question. We have 36 states in Nigeria, and I am not sure whether 30 of those states can pay pension to those people who retire at the age of 60. So if you cannot pay pension for those people who have worked for 30 years, how can you provide them with social amenities? Here you understand what I'm saying? When people who work for 35 years, 30 years cannot even access their pension, and you are saying that that government will provide, because those people must have worked for 35 years. And yet, in Ogun State or any other state, it will take you 10 years for you to collect your gratuity. Most of them will have been dead by then. So we have a lot of things that is wrong with the system. And until we have sincere leaders, like you said, there's a deficit trust in all aspects of Nigerian life. And it is apparent, because, for instance, let us talk of subsidy. At any point in time, when there's a negotiation with the labor union, they will the federal government will tell us that they will use the different subsidy to build a railway, to buy many buses, to cushion the effect.
Shopee.
Which effect? Shopee, everybody, they have named it any name since then, except the Lagos and Abuja railline that was built a year ago. Tell me whatever cushion effect that government has been able to provide from the series of subsidies that have been removed. Since probably, I've been hearing of subsidies probably since 1989.
Yeah, but again, I talk about the crisis of confidence. If we all remember what happened in the very early days of this administration, when it had to take that very painful step of removing subsidy, the uproar wasn't such that the government couldn't manage, because there was that initial connection between the people and the administration, where it was like, yeah, fine, this man cares. We trust this government to do what is needful. All right? I'm not sure that there was
unprecedented.
Yeah,
by moving it from.
Do you understand? And the heavens didn't
down
fall.
to 100.
Ayo, what happened thereafter? And that was because at that point in time, this
element of trust.
Element of trust. So we have this crisis of
body language thing was
confidence that has gotten worse. We don't even trust them anymore to do what is right. So I think there is this leadership element to it, and we can't run away from it. All right? Every government, wherever you can't find them, would always take these very, very painful steps. And citizens, if they are convinced sufficiently, will buy into it. And that is what is missing here.
All right. We'll take this break. When we come back, we'll talk more. It's still Journalist Hangout. We'll be right back.
It was a bright sunny day in Agbala community. The community popular Jingo has just heard a rumor, and he has come to spread it to everyone. "You won't believe what I just heard," he said. "That incident last month was not a robbery. It was carefully planned by the neighboring community." It didn't take a lot for the people of Agbala to believe that the people of the neighboring community masterminded the attack, and off they were to war. However, only one person thought to call a friend in the community to check the information. By the time they realized the truth, nobody really remembered who brought the rumor. Fact check to be sure of the source of the information and its authenticity before spreading it or taking action. Fake news is dangerous.
This message is brought to you from the Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, with support from the UK government.
Showing up in style inspires great confidence. IVM G5T appeals to class.
Time is of the essence. With IVM Kappa, business and meetings are always on the go.
Fun time with the family. Thank you to IVM Kingdom. IVM Kara always stealing the show. Isn't she beautiful? Influence defines a great leader. IVM Seriki is Africa's commute king. Strong, reliable, and durable. With the concept of regionalization, Innocent Vehicle is committed to satisfying its customers with producing their everyday dream cars.
IVM, pride of Africa.
Thank you for staying with us. This is Journalist Hangout, in case you're just joining us, and I have Sam Ibemere and Tunde Abaton in the studio. Gentlemen, now, there's still much ado about Section 84, subsection 8 of the Electoral Act amendments relating to statutory delegates. The House of Representatives has stepped down a motion seeking to override President Muhammadu Buhari for failing to assent to the Electoral Act Amendment Bill 2022, which provides for statutory delegates. A member, Ben Igbakpa, has raised a constitutional point of order to override the president and two-thirds majority of the members' votes on the bill. But presenting the motion at the resumption of the plenary on Tuesday, the Deputy Speaker, Ahmed Wasi, who presided over the session, said a motion cannot be used to override a bill, insisted that the motion be stepped down and the right procedure be followed. Let's share the story with you.
Determined to remove any form of ambiguity from the Electoral Act, the House convened an emergency sitting in May to amend Section 84, subsection 8 to enable statutory delegates participate in the congresses and conventions of political parties. Weeks after the expiration of the one-month window for presidential assent, opposition member Ben Igbakpa moves that the House overrides President Muhammadu Buhari. Ben Igbakpa describes the absence of formal communication from Mr. President on reasons behind the withholding of assent as an affront on the Parliament. He seeks the invocation of Section 58, subsection 5.
Why I am so interested in this is the complaint out there. You see, if this ninth assembly must be remembered, sir, we should be remembered by two critical bills, the PIB and this Electoral Law Act. And if we leave without putting it in order the way it's supposed to be, then I think we must have not done anything.
But he had barely finished reading his motion when the presiding officer insisted bills are not amended by motions.
What you are supposed to do is possibly to ask the rules, if you are interested, write to the speaker for a bill, seeking for that to happen, and then we go through the normal procedure as enshrined in our own House standing orders. All motions stepped down by the leave of the House for further legislative action.
Meanwhile, some members say they will vote in support of the motion once it returns to the floor.
If the intention of overriding him is to address that lacuna, that particular defect, that ambiguity in that particular section, be rest assured that Yusuf Gagdi will vote to override Mr. President.
Since 2010 to before this one, statutory delegates were voting. Why was there the need to now expressly state statutory?
So the lawmakers who support the motion, the continued inaction of the president in either assenting or vetoing the bill has left a lacuna in the nation's constitutional democracy. And this, they say, portends danger to the 2023 electoral process. Joke Adisa, TVC News, Abuja.
Ab initio, I think I will blame the National Assembly for this, not Mr. President. Because when you want to put it at the doorstep of Mr. President, that Mr. President did not remember that this whole process was supervised by the National Assembly. It took them time, they checked it, the back and forth, and there was a time the emphasis was on the Section 12, this 84 subsection 12. Yeah. Do you understand? If everybody concentrated on Section 12 and Section 12 went to courts, and Section 12 has gone into the Supreme Court
84-12.
Yes, got to the Supreme Court. A lot of people left Section 8. And Section 8 empowers even National Assembly member to vote in their constitution, the convention. Both PDP, APC, across the board.
Yeah. So, Ayo, wouldn't you agree with those who have described Nigeria as one huge theater of comedy? I mean, how can a man... I mean, it's the only way you can describe this is just total inefficiency.
Because if you have 360 House of Rep members, 109 senators, over 400 lawmakers, decided on this document, and they forgot Section 8.
What has played out is just pure comedy. All right? So you ask that question. What level of negligence? How do you describe the level of negligence in a House of 360 and the Senate of 109 persons, and that they couldn't, pick out this error? But having said that, the other leg to it is, this is a constitutional matter. So if the members of the National Assembly have had issues with this, out of negligence and all that, but Mr. President also has his part to play. If they came back, realized their mistakes, took a different decision, and communicated to Mr. President, it behoves on the man who is leading us to do what is also constitutionally right. And Mr. President was supposed to have acted within 30 days. If he didn't think that the amendment was in order, he had the right to communicate them and say, no, I have my reservations. But in this case, the second leg of the comedy is that the President did not endorse it, neither did he communicate to the National Assembly. All right? So in as much as you want to blame members of the lawmakers, you also want to query why Mr. President has acted the way he did. But again, there's a history to it. All right? The conversations leading up to the Electoral Act itself, how Mr. President felt that the House didn't play game, and all right, and then the governors on their part also felt that the lawmakers were, beginning to act as a stumbling block to their powers and all that stuff. So a lot of intrigues is involved here. Some have said Mr. President has acted the way he did because he wants to take his pound of flesh, or if you like, he wants them to lick their wounds. So this is what we have, playing out. But at the end of the day, it's a constitutional issue. This is about Nigeria, all right? The president has a part to play, and that is to sign it or communicate his reservations to the House. Where that fails, a certain section, I think it's 58.5, empowers members of the National Assembly to override the president. I think that's what is at stake here.
The inability to get this section 84, subsection 8 over with, that almost altered the destiny of the political parties, as in during the 2022 primaries.
Well, I think we have to look at it from three perspectives. Number one, I think because of the pact the National Assembly members had with the president to behave during this ninth assembly, they were in a hurry to actually sit down and read in between the lines as per the provision of section 8. So if they were in a hurry, then confirms the belief that if you want to hide anything from a black man, just put it inside the book. If you put it inside the book, you will not read it. If they have been able to read in between, they will know that there is danger. Number two is the fact that they are complaining now because most of them lost their position. They cannot come back. That thing. If they had gained their position, if that thing had favored them, then most of them would have been back and they will say, hey, after all, we are favored. But it is about personal thing. So they have lost. The horse already boasted from the stable. So you are now crying over split milk. Well, if the National Assembly leader is magnanimous enough, they will allow the motion to be taken and the necessary amendment done. But that will be after this. Nobody can do that one now because all the parties have concluded their primaries. Those who have lost have lost. Most of them will not go back to that particular transit. I think it's a lesson for our people to think more about the generality of the people than their own position. They were in a hurry to please Mr. President. So if they were in a hurry, if they were not in a hurry, they would have cited these mistakes not time ago and insist that that section has to be obliterated for the interest of democracy. But unfortunately for them, they could not do it. So I think I wish them the best.
The overall interest of the country now, I think something should be done so that it will not endanger the 2023 election. Because beyond this clause 8 of the Electoral Amendment Act, we have the old Electoral Act as amended. And it will be catastrophic to go into the 2023 election with the old law.
Absolutely.
So already this act, you have the BOVA's recognition, the polling units, electronic transmission of results, and what do you have? Some other lofty things. But we can't, because of politics now, to throw away the baby and the bathwater.
Yeah, this is about our electoral system. And the electoral system is guided by laws, all right? And that is why this is not just about negligence on the part of lawmakers. It's about our laws, the laws guiding elections in this country. All right? So, and you have the off-season election, polls coming up and all that. This is a critical segment of our Electoral Act. In spite of this slip, remember that both the lower house and the upper house, that's the House of Reps and the Senate, were in total agreement of what needed to be done. And that is why the bill, after all the deliberations, was sent to Mr. President. So what we need to do here, Ayo, is not to, for political leaders to make this a private issue. It's about the laws governing this country. It's about the laws that help us in our leadership recruitment process. So we need to put those sentiments aside and do what is right. And it's not like the National Assembly leadership is against it, listening to Worsens, the deputy Speaker of the House of Reps. He has said that you cannot override Mr. President on this law by motion, that this bill has to be deliberated again. After deliberations, if we have an overwhelming position that the House is convinced about what it has, it stands for, then the issue of override can come in. So it's about the processes. It's not about, completely throwing away the Section 84. Is it 84? No, 84.8. 84.8. It's not about throwing it away. It's about the processes that would comfortably allow the National Assembly take that decision of overriding Mr. President if need be. So in this case, what the Deputy Speaker has said is go back to the standing order, all right? Follow the due process, and then you can come back. And coming back is basically saying this bill has to be deliberated afresh. If we have 2/3 majority and there's concurrence at the level of the Senate, we can then take up Mr. President and deal with it. Either have him sign it or override him. So it's about the process here.
We seem to have a lot of audience from the United Kingdom today. Kingsley is calling us from UK again. Thank you for joining us, Kingsley.
Hello.
Yes, Kingsley, go ahead with your contribution.
Yeah, please, I want to take you guys a bit back from what you guys discussed earlier. I want to know how Dangote Refinery will help solve this problem of fuel scarcity, and when the refinery will be ready, at least for Nigeria to start enjoying it before things get worse. That's my question.
Okay. And Sam?
Yeah, from what we have read and heard, we understand that the Dangote Refinery will come on stream. It was, I think, later this year.
But June this year.
Yeah, this year. But there's been some kind of delay because from what we heard again, that's issues of funding and all that stuff. So hopefully, probably 2023, it will come on stream. But your question, how will this address the challenge that we face? It's about capacity. The Dangote Refinery has massive capacity to not just to meet our local demand, but also for export. So if it comes on stream,
it's not even exclusively.
No.
For Nigeria,
no. It's not at all.
It's a business.
It's a business. It has more than enough capacity to satisfy the Nigerian market and make a lot of money. So if we have Dangote, we don't have to go shipping. So even the bridge time, the time it takes us to bring in imports will be totally reduced. And
we don't expect him to crash the prices for us.
Absolutely, no. He wouldn't. He's a businessman.
Because even the NNPC said they will sell for him in Naira. They will sell for him in Naira, probably in order to reduce or to curtail the price. But then he also has to look at the operations because the refinery has to be run.
NNPC also, they have the kind of
I think about 20% stake. But let's all not be carried away. The man is a businessman. This has been set up as a venture, structured to make profit. So let nobody walk away with the impression that at the end of the day, the so-called prices will crash and all that.
No.
The man is going to be doing business, at the market price. That's the only way he can pay back his exposures to meet his exposures to the banks and all that. Nobody should think that he got big money from his pocket to run that. Even if he does, the man is not Santa Claus.
First of all, the essence of business is to make profit and to stay afloat.
Absolutely. So we just hope that our local demands will be met sufficiently, and then the convenience of picking or buying fuel from the retail outlets will be without pains. I think that's what
justice to
Nigerians
your
are basically
question,
asking
the
for.
caller from the United Kingdom, and back to this. Ipman is saying that no way that they cannot sell less than 180 naira per liter in this current situation. That's the independent petroleum marketers.
Well, I think the onus lies on the PPMC, Petroleum Product Marketing Company, if they have the capacity to enforce this particular decision of selling for 165 naira. Because when people stay on the queue for a long time and they couldn't get it, it's a law of supply and demand. If you cannot make it easier for people to get petrol from the depot and down to the people, are you going to subsidize their thinking? If that subsidy has been, of operations has been effective, there may be no need to move it off from 165 naira to 180 naira. But the PPMC have no capacity to enforce that law because it's a question of law of supply and demand. Yeah, until they do that, you cannot actually, we are in Nigeria, we cannot actually guarantee that it will be 165 naira.
Not just capacity, but the issue of inefficiency all over the place.
Yes.
Do you understand? I mean, you promise subsidy, and then you don't have clear standards for measuring how this subsidy thing is implemented, and you have corruption all over the place. Do you understand? So we at the moment we cannot even tell how much corruption that we have in the system, because somebody comes and says, look, I moved 20 trucks to the north, pay me this bridging fee.
Yes.
So you and I are not there when the audit stuff is going to be done. It just basically a repeat of what we had some couple of years ago, where people were just under declaring or over declaring whatever
they will bring
they
in
did, and then making money. That same challenge faces this economy. And by the time we do what is right and open up the system, you'll be shocked at how much resources this country has lost by way of the so-called subsidy.
All right, and finally, election seasons is in our country. Now, that election season in our country comes with some peculiarities, such as rampant cross-carpeting by politicians. This is playing out in the floor of the Senate. The All Progressive Congress, APC, has lost 3 more senators to opposition parties. The lawmakers are Senator Ahmed Keita from Katsina North, Lawa Gamo from Bauchi South, and Francis Ali Kena from Edo North. While Senator Keita and Ali Kena defected to the opposition People's Democratic Party, Gamo pitched his own tent with the new Nigerian People's Party, NNPP. Their defections have reduced the total number of APC senators from 70 to 67 in the upper legislative chamber. Meanwhile, the Senate has announced Senator Philip Adidwa from the FCT as the Senate Minority Leader to replace Senator Iyinariya Abaribe from Abia South, while Senator Chukwuka Otazi from Enugu North is the new Senate minority to replace Senator Adidwa. Gentlemen, we know what it is. Immediately after the primaries, the center couldn't hold again, and we saw this alignment and realignment. Yes, and a lot of people, they couldn't just wait for the deadline, for that list to be submitted to the Independent National Electoral Commission. They just have to hit another party.
Well, we have to know that most of our politicians are game players.
Your present party does not favor you, or the primary is not looking
and it is about
clear.
Personal self-survival. In a normal democracy where ideology is the in thing, you don't just move from one party today and the next morning you are in another party. But they are in a game of survival. And this thing will continue until after, even those who have lost out, who have no hope of getting the ticket of another party, they will probably align with the ruling party or the party that is at stake in that part of the country to get something from it if they cannot return to the National Assembly or to the Senate. It will also happen in the state houses of assembly where people have lost their seats. And nationally, I think it's also a game of chess between the PDP, the leading political parties in Nigeria today, the PDP and the APC. In most part of the north now, what you hear is that senators or House of Rep people are leaving that party to join another party, obviously for some other reasons, fearing that maybe this party may not be able to retain the center. And secondly, I saw some posters. They will use, maybe without necessarily mentioning names, the House of Rep, Senate, They will now put the poster of another person who comes from that part of the country. They print it on it for personal altruistic reasons. So that is what we are going to be experiencing between now and next year, because people are there to make sure that they want to play the game to favor them.
For me, I'm disappointed. I'm not happy about the one of Senator Ina Abaribe. I'm a fan. I like Senator Abaribe, and the way he has been able to play his role as opposition, leader in the House and everything, and outspokenness and everything. And I felt that whatever it is, the People's Democratic Party would have, just worked out a way to still remain in that party. He has gone to the All Progressive Grand Alliance in Abia State right now.
Yeah, Ayo, you're absolutely right when you speak of Senator Ina Abaribe as a man who comes with a lot of conviction, in the course of debates in the Senate. Quite outspoken, would look in the face and say whatever he wants to say, and at some point he became the face of the opposition in the National Assembly. So I can understand, where you're coming from. But again, the game is on, as Mr. Barton said, the game is on. Once the issue of who holds the party structure at the state level was resolved in favor of the governors, you could tell that this was going to happen.
Kind of effects.
The fact of the matter is that the governors are in absolute control, and that explains why most of the National Assembly members did not return to the National Assembly. I hear over 170, and that's because the governors, have come to determine who returns and who
governors who are also interested, second-term governors.
Yes, that's what you have. So it's a game of permutations. He lost out in Abia in spite of his popularity. And because he's convinced that he has the people's backing, and that's why he moved into Abia. So we would like to see what plays out in the election proper.
Test his popularity.
To test his popularity, whether riding under the umbrella of APGA, he will be able to return to the Senate. So let us not foreclose anything. APGA, just like Labour, appears to be enjoying some, momentum in the southeast. So we'll see how that plays out. It would be nice to have the likes of Ina Abaribe back in National Assembly. We want people who will speak up, for whatever it is worth, so that we don't have, this tag around the National Assembly as one that is tied to the apron strings of the executive.
Will this move, will it bring to fore, people look, that postulation that people will be looking beyond APC and PDP? Now we see NNPP, they mentioned NNPP prominently. We now see party like APGA mentioned prominently, and with that, do you see this? That's like the sign of the 2023 election.
Actually, with the performance of both the PDP in the first 16 years and the APC in the last 8 years, it is quite apparent to anybody who knows Nigeria that there's very little difference between the two parties. Now, with the coming on board of the Labour Party and the APGA that has always been there in the southeast, where those people who have defected from either PDP or APC, they will have been doing so based on their own confession that they are popular enough to go to use the platform of that party, not necessarily the platform, their personality. So the next year's election will be based on issue of personality, how strong you are with your people, not necessarily the parties, because the parties have not given much to the people. So this is when the issue of personality, your performance, if Abaribe is convinced enough that you can still garner the people. My name. Like me, I believe that, I used to tell people that somebody like Obi should not have left APGA when he left. He should have stayed back and built the party to be able to effectively negotiate with the southeast, with the right parts of Nigeria. That's a story for another day. But I believe that if they can stay in the party and do things that will make your people to be affectionate to you, then they will see you as somebody who is trustworthy that they can put their bet on. But now, all the parties, they are almost the same thing. So next year will be so interesting. It's a mixture of both the individual and what he's promising, not necessarily about the political
Talking about the turnover, the Speaker of the House of Representatives actually was so disappointed, and he expressed his displeasure, because we know that it takes some time for any lawmaker, and the older you become in that act of lawmaking,
you become almost like
get
an
better.
expert. Yeah.
Yes, you know, someone like Femi Gbajabiamila now is like a kind
knows the
of
rules.
authority in his own. He has been there since 2003, and it is, you know, to Ahmed Lawa in the Senate, if he makes it back to the Senate, he has been there for some time. And Ijide, the other day, mentioned a senator in America that spent 47 years. And that we add to the quality. It's not, you know.
Ayo, you're right, because the turnover is a serious cause, you know, of concern, because you can't beat experience, you can't beat maturity, all right? Because the longer you stay in the house, stay in the National Assembly, chances are that you will have picked up a lot of knowledge, you know, along the line. Though you could, though you could argue that there are some who just go there to sleep. You know, who would have spent the last
motion,
nothing.
no amendment.
Let us not even generalize.
No bill.
Just to warm the bench.
Yeah, I don't want to be categorical here, but you can't be the fact that some who have been there for a much longer time will come with a lot of experience and all that. And so what has happened, you know, gives one a lot of concern, because people get in there and begin to learn, you know, afresh. The next 1, 2, 3 years, they are still learning. I'm not making any meaningful contributions, you know, on the floor. We don't want to have that kind of a thing. We want to have a house that is very, you know, very vibrant, where people are very knowledgeable, come with a lot of capacity and competence, and be able to, you know, make laws and engage in oversight functions that can move, you know, our society forward. So it should be a source of worry for those of us who are watching keenly. And I think that we need to continue to improve, you know, on our system in such a way that we don't put too much power in the hands of a few. Because if the governors continue to have, you know, a stranglehold on the party structures, we are going to continue to have this, because most of them want to retire into the National Assembly and do whatever it is. It's almost become, you know, retirement ground for most of them.
For governors. Sam Ibere, thank you for your contribution.
Thank you very much.
And Tunde Abaton, thank you for
being here. Being here again.
And that's our offering today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program. You can watch the repeat broadcast tonight at 11 p.m. and join us every Sunday from 1:30 to 3:30 for Journalist Hangout on Sunday. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. I'm Ayodele Ozubaku. Bye for now, and God bless Nigeria.
The following is a paid presentation by ShopX TV. You're watching ShopX TV, home to some of the most popular international brands in Africa, including Hubber Chef, MyFit Jeans, Genie Bra, the Power XL Air Fryer, the Nutri